Featherweight bout here. Kevin Vallejos, I think it's how you say it, coming in at minus 215 against Gene Silva, sitting at plus 160. 10-2 for Silva and 11-0 for Vallejos out of Argentina. You see it on his waist there. That's the Samurai Fight House. Getting a lot of guys out of Argentina that fight in this promotion, Samurai Fight House, which is like a pretty low level production, but I mean, they put on a lot of fights and they're getting a lot of guys coming out of it into the UFC. So they must be doing something right. He's 21 years old, coming in as a 2-1 favorite against Gene Silva, who's 26 years old and doesn't have too bad of a record either. 11-0. If you look at when he started his professional career, it was only 2 years ago, like basically to the day, 2 years ago. So he's got 11 fights in 2 years. And he's been finishing dudes. The one thing with the Samurai Fight House is like the level of competition is just not that great. Like if you're good, you're probably going to rack up a lot of wins because there's a lot of guys fighting on it that just they're just not very good. And the win he had by decision most recently was Nestor Machado, who is like 17-9 when he faced him. That's like one of the better records that he's facing. Last time out, he won got a win against Eduardo Garagori, who's 14-2 when he fought him. So that's another decent win. 21 years old, coming in against a guy, Gene Silva, who, I mean, he's watching his fights, like, not super impressive, but this is just a greasy one to me. Like, are you really going to put minus 200 something on a 21-year-old undefeated guy who's been fighting in like Argentina regional scene? It's pretty ballsy. Like when I watched the film on Vallejos, it wasn't like anything crazy, you know? Like if you look at a guy to like compared to like a Francisco Prado, I think he had like all finishes. Like this guy is still going to decision with that kind of level of talent. I would expect like all finishes if I'm going to bet, minus 200 something. But what are you thinking? Maybe I'm just being too critical.
No, I think this is fight of the night written all over it. Both guys are like round one KO and dangerous early. Like Silva, he'll march forward and put a pace on guys at times, but he's not, you can tell like he's not the most technical striker on the feet by any means. But, he will melt guys with the volume and combinations, and he does have some power in his hands. But he hasn't been past the first round in like years. If you look at his record, like it's been a long time since he's been past the first round. When I do watch his tape though, like sometimes his aggressiveness and marching forward leaves his chin up and he does get cracked. He will get hit at least. And I don't know if he will have fought a guy like Vallejos who's does hold that kind of power and is this level so far. So if he leaves his chin open trying to come in too aggressive, I think he could get cracked here. I do think Vallejos is going to be probably the more technical fighter. He picks his shots a little better. He's a little more patient. Maybe the better counter striker as well. But if he can just weather the storm, it's kind of the story for both guys, though. If you just both weather the storm, who's going to have the better cardio here? I mean, who's got more experience going 3 rounds? I don't know who you even pick. Like both guys have so many first-round finishes, but what I've seen, at least in the tape, I think Vallejos has got the better, I guess, well-rounded striking. He mixes in the leg kicks better. He mixes in the body kicks better, and he comes upstairs too. So that's who I'm going to take for the pick, just for those factors alone. It could be fireworks from the very beginning, though. Could be fun.
Yeah, it should be a fun fight. I'm going to go with the underdog Gene Silva here, just for the fact that maybe a little bit more experience as far as the fight game goes, like only 2 years in the fight game as a professional for Vallejos. I know he has 11 fights, but that's a lot. Like I think at some point that might have to catch up to you. To be that active, maybe he doesn't catch up to him here, but I think eventually it will. I'm gonna go with the dog, Gene Silva. Just gonna throw one in here. I do think it's a good fight. It's a fun fight, and looking forward to it.